Wow.
A system can check if an AI model is acting weird.
Wow. Okay. So there's an AI to correct AI. But
Yeah.
Can there be how long does this go? Because you haven't.
Chain of the AI. This call when the CFO told the person oh, you need to do this transaction very quick. It's very important. It was a video call, and they hang up. The person made the transaction, and it turned out it was just deepfakes. All of these people were just deepfakes. I want to mention is that we sometimes forget that artificial intelligence has its specific quirks and things that we need to secure just as much as we secure other things.
Hi folks, welcome to a thrilling new episode of Cyber Narratives. I'm your host, Mathieu, Cyber Dr. Peto, and today we are here for the very first time in person in Warsaw with Pamela Krzypkowska, with whom I had a little bit of hard time pronouncing your name, but here we are, Pamela. Pamela, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. As you brilliantly said, I'm Pamela Krzypkowska, and I'm a director for innovation right now, but I used to work as a cloud solution architect, which also took part in, securing the AI solutions, talking about the AI solutions. And right now I talk about the same thing, but more from a senior perspective.
All right, nice. So you work with AI for quite some time now?
Yes, it's not that long. Some people say they've been working with AI for 20 years, but I think it's been 5 or 6 years now.
Okay, wow. So perhaps just to get us started, AI is something we talk a lot about. There's a lot of forms of it. Can you briefly describe what is AI?
Okay, it's a hard question, but but it's good to start with hard questions, But I think in the case of the technical knowledge that we care about, because AI is basically more things. We sometimes talk about AI in the case of Terminator, and that's what people think about AI, right? That's the cool AI. But in the case of what we actually care about and what we can use right now, AI is a machine that can do things that are naturally affiliated with human intelligence. So make decisions or translates voice to text, for example, or speak to ourselves. So AI is basically a computer program that can make decisions and that it's not programmed by us, so we don't say exactly what it has to do, but it learns based on the data and the environment.
That's an excellent point, because a lot of the vocabulary you use about the AI is related to cybersecurity when it comes to making decisions and different things like this is very much what we end up doing in cybersecurity. You think either something is malicious or not. So how does AI fit, in your opinion, into this whole cybersecurity framework?
Yeah, I think there are two things we should talk about, and we can start with the first one, which is more easily accessible when it comes to artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, which is how can AI be leveraged when it comes to cybersecurity? So how can we actually use it? And I think, first of all, it's for you and your listeners and people who watch, it's obvious, but basically, when it comes to cyber attacks and cyber attackers, we're trying to be one step ahead and they're trying to be one step ahead. So the case is who gets to be first in this race? So I think that's why AI is important to talk about in the case of cybersecurity, because for sure, the people that want to attack us want to use the best technology. And AI sometimes is the best technology in this case. So we need the same technology to counter them in the same scenario. So first of all, it's important that we use AI and we think about AI in the context of cybersecurity, because the other side is doing it as well. So that's the first thing. But the case is how. And the most, I would say, thing that is mostly commonly used right now, and it's a basic thing, is using AI in the case of seeing how people interact with their devices. So the easy vector of attack is a human, right? We say that a lot when it comes to phishing. So it's easier to people click on links. The stack of technology sometimes is not so easily infiltrated as our human brains. So what happens when somebody loses their device or loses their computer, or something is happening that they left it unlocked and someone else can use it? So AI can be used to check if the way that that the device is being interacted with is being consistent with the way normal person interacts with it.
Normal person?
Yes, I'm an employee of a company and I use my laptop in the same way probably every day. I open this folder, I open that folder, I download this file, I upload this file. So this is my normal way of interacting with the device. And then if someone else is using it, the cyber attacker, they're probably going to interact with it in a different way. So they're going to download all the files, or they're going to open some things that I never open as an employee. So when AI can see the pattern, that the pattern is different from what I would normally do, and actually block access to the device.
I see. So we're talking about a defense mechanism here where if AI notices that some things are way out of the norm, then you start blocking access to services or disturbing the threat actor.
Exactly. This is what's happening in banks a lot of times, but this is a bit easier, right? If you normally just make transactions for 100 or 200 of euros, and out of a blue you make a transaction for thousands of euros, your bank account will ask you, are you sure you want to make this transaction? Or maybe ask you to authorize once again. And the same can happen with AI and our use of devices. So like AI can actually ask you, are you sure you want to download all these files that are marked confidential in this one folder?
Yeah, but I agree. It's definitely a powerful tool, and I think we've been using for quite some time now. When you consider even the basis of the tools, the question is though, you know, if there's such a thing as AI where I think, let me know what you think, but either you get too few alerts and it doesn't detect everything, but nowadays we're putting so much pressure on AI to detect everything. It has to do everything, and it's what we call blinking light technology, where you have lights blinking everywhere, alerts, and you don't know what to do. And this is often AI driven. So how would you advise people tuning their technology? What can people do to avoid having too many alerts that they can't deal with?
Yeah, and I think when it comes to this, what I think is crucial is human in the loop. So basically, AI is good in detecting patterns that we humans sometimes don't see. But AI is not always good in deciding what these patterns mean. We as humans should be able to do that. And we don't want, all the lights, as you're saying, all the blinking lights to be there everywhere so that we don't know what to do. But what we would want is that AI can be trained not only on data which is available, but also on our decisions. So first of all, humans should be included so that AI can be toned down a bit so that it's not going crazy, as you're saying, with all the blinking lights. But on the other hand, it should be that humans, when all the blinking lights are going off, humans can see the dashboard, and the dashboard should be easier organized by AI. For example, AI can prioritize. AI can tell you that this risk might be the biggest risk at the moment, so that you have the top 3 risks put by AI. Of course, there might be different that are probably or maybe some risks, but I think AI could only be leveraged on this point in prioritizing our risks in cybersecurity.
Well, so you talk about the defensive part. You said that there was another side to AI that you wanted to talk about.
Yes, exactly. Because this is a defensive part. The first one that we mentioned is how can AI help us? And we just mentioned one big thing, which is the patterns of how people use devices, but generally how people use AI for cybersecurity. And as you said, it's been a topic for a long time, and we've been actually using AI for cyber for a long time. But the second part is we sometimes don't think about AI solutions, which we use for our business all the time. Like if you have an e-commerce website, you probably have personalization engine. You probably have a algorithm that tells people what they're gonna like. If they bought something, what is the next thing they might want to buy? This is AI, and we need to secure this AI system just as much as we secure everything else. And the second topic that I want to mention is that we sometimes forget that artificial intelligence has its specific quirks and things that we need to secure just as much as we secure other things in our infrastructure.
Can you give me some examples of how you need to secure AI, like other things?
Yes, and I think this is, of course, my perspective. I think there are two things that make AI kind of hard or different to secure than normal infrastructure that we have. And one of them is the decision, the idea that AI makes a decision. So let's imagine that you have an AI in a hospital that lets people access some healthcare things. And there's an attacker who wants to do something with this device that the person will not be able to get some healthcare or medical attention, or that it will wreak havoc in the hospital. If the doctor or the people that use AI again, we come back to human in the loop. If they don't understand, or if they're not connected with what's going on in AI, whatever decision is going to come up, they're just going to agree with it, right?
Yeah, because they don't know, they don't want to take the time.
Yeah, they're just like, okay, AI said this, whatever, we're just going forward.
Yeah.
So the same can be in the bank account. Like, do we pay this money to this person? Yeah, of course. AI said we should, so we're doing it. So the AI model can be infiltrated by an attacker, because there are cases when the attacker can access the model and train it with the data on their side so that it will skew the decisions to what they want. So we need the humans to understand what's going on in the AI system, so they be able to see if the pattern is off. And another thing, we need like security checks for the AI system, so that not only humans will be briefed on what's going on, but if you have a specific, for example, another AI or a more deterministic system, it doesn't have to be artificial intelligence, that will check if the decisions of the model are not going off what it's usually deciding. So like it can also be, we talked about the defense mechanism for human acting different, is the same thing with AI.
Wow.
A system can check if an AI model is acting weird.
Wow. Okay. So there's an AI to correct AI. But
Yeah.
can there be like how long does this go? Because you have
The
an
chain
AI
of the AIs.
checking on each other. That's kind of crazy. I love this what you said about it, because threat actors, hackers, however we want to call them, cyber attackers, will have access to those things that you talk about, right? They might have access to an antivirus solution that everyone uses and might try to pen test it. I think it kind of refers to, I've been to the airport recently, and when you go to security there, you'll have to pass your bags, right? You have to pass your bags, and the goal is to catch any objects that could be dangerous for flying, right? So I'm drawing this parallel here because I thought about it. This machines, you can probably get it, used or trying to find it, buy it somehow, and so you could test it in your own lab to try to way that you can hack the machine to get in and not show that there's a dangerous object in there.
Exactly.
I don't know, putting something around it or something. So this is why I thought that, cybersecurity, just much like airport security, needs to have someone behind the counter to be able to double check the technology and make sure that it is indeed safe or unsafe too. So like as another, let's say, layer of measure, right?
And also this also refers to AI, because in the same case, in airports it might be a bit different, because it's harder to buy the machine, because for example they are only available to certain people or vendors.
Could be.
But but you can find them, for example, used, but you need to go to a great length to find it. But when I have an e-commerce website again and I have personalization engine, I can have a couple of bots go to this website and see what the personalization engine is giving me based on my information that I input. Or any other case, you have engines on websites that let you make decisions. So for example, the checker of whether you're gonna get mortgage or not. There are some checkers that are available, which you can go put many bots there, or even people if you have so many cyber attackers with you, and you can pen test this solution so that you'll be able to pinpoint where the decision is being made, how. And this will allow you, not even without doing anything illegal, you're just browsing a website. This is what the website is for. You're just browsing a website, you're testing the model, and you're able to think what the model would say in a given case and create the query that will let the model do whatever you want. So this is again like a way to reverse engineer the model.
Hey there, dear listener. Thank you for sticking around for the 10th episode of Cyber Narratives. What a journey it's been. Thank you for sticking around, and I hope you're enjoying it. If you could please take a second to click subscribe, maybe leave a like or comment, and share with a friend of yours, that would mean a lot to me and help impact lives for the better. Now, let's go back to our little meditation for 30 seconds so you can take the time to do it, and I'll see you in the second half. So last time we left it off, we were talking about personalization engines that you can hack a personalization engine
You can hack any AI solutions which is available on the web.
Okay. And can just companies just not put it on the web, their solutions? Like,
In this case, no. In some other cases, yes, you can make it like harder to DDoS. Like you can block, for example, one person. If one person would be going to one website and checking stuff over and over again, you can block it. You can block like number of calls that can come from one IP address, for example.
Yeah.
This is one thing. But again, nowadays you can use multiple IP addresses for multiple users, so it's not that easy. But again, this is like straight solutions that you can use for not making easier to reverse engineer your model. But in some cases, it's impossible to make it unable to reverse engineer. And in cases of like e-commerce, as we have mentioned, like it's not a high risk solution, right? If the cyber attacker reverse engineers your personalization engine and it sees that it can change some tweaky part, that it recommends something else, does it have any outcome? Your customers might be annoyed because it personalizes badly, but it's not a high risk case of like mortgages or other things like that. So also reverse engineering is possible, but in some cases, first of all, we have to put our solutions to the web because that's why they are working. And second of all, in the low risk scenarios, when it really just AA decision doesn't change that much, like it only can change like how happy your customer is, it's not that much of a threat.
Yeah. I mean, you have to prioritize, right? What's critical to your business, what's not, and then based on this, allocate resources of what has to be protected and what can be, a little bit more open to the public, of course, right?
Exactly, because like we want our tools, our products to be available to people, and this is sort of the thing, that the people can be anyone. The people is all the users that you can have, but you don't know if, for example, this is a famous case of like having a competitor is browsing through your app and saying what you have, but you don't know which one of your users might be your competitor, so you cannot block it to like one specific person. And the same with the cyber attackers. We need to find ways that will allow our solutions to be strong and cyber protected, even though people can see what's inside them.
Yeah.
This is the same case with open source that we talk about in many examples. Like we ask ourselves, is open source safe? Because it's easier to find gaps in our code, and it's easier to find what's missing when we publish our code. And in some cases, it's true that some parts shouldn't be open sourced, but in other cases, the cybersecurity of our solutions shouldn't rely on the code being private. It should rely on many layers of cybersecurity being around the solution, not only the code.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, also having it open, if others are using it, you can also get flagged. You can also get feedback from other developers building on top of it. So there's good and bad about it, let's say. Yeah. So, we've talked about prioritizing things that are relevant to your business, kind of like scaling up the priorities. So once you have these priorities, what's next? How do you protect yourselves once you have understood which processes are key for your business using AI?
Yes. So basically, we talk about that AI is, you use some things using AI in your business, and some of them has higher priority to your business and are more risky, because that's another thing. Like an engine of recommendation can be a big thing for your business, but it's hard to break it, or it's hard to make it do any harm. So it's easier to secure because it can be reverse engineered and it doesn't have that much harm to our business. But in case of, like, as we said, loans or medical equipment or anything that's regarding to your business, if you're in healthcare, when you're in finance, then when you have this sort of solution, what you have to do is you have to be sure that, first of all, the data that you're using for retraining your model, because models are never static. If they would be static, the world is changing, people's behaviors are changing. We need to be sure that our models are keeping up with the times. But with keeping up with the times, we cannot forget that it's easy to poison the data that might come into your model. So let's say that the attacker is coming to your website and feeding your model, which is learning with the data, which is somehow putting the model to his advantage. We don't want this. So what we can do is automatically even check the statistical information about the data and see if it's changing, so that we can be sure that one batch of data is not skewed, And if it's skewed, we can see why it's skewed. And for this, we need human intelligence. So, for example, during the pandemic, a lot of the ways that people buy things or use websites changed. Our screen time went to,
Right.
hell in a handbasket. We've been all just on our phones buying stuff. So it's normal that data changed. And it has a reason. Everyone was locked up in their homes. But if there was no outside reason for this and you see that the data is changing, you need to look into this very carefully, because it might be, of course, just a glitch. It might be just a normal thing, but it also might be the data poisoning attack on your data set. So never put your data blindly into your model to retrain it. Always check the data, because the data is like the food of your model. If you give it the good food, the model will be good. If you give it poison food, the model might not be that good.
Yeah, it's hard because today's models are used by so many people in critical cases, right? We talked about, sometimes recommender systems, but it can go much deeper than that in medical uses even. So you got to know your stuff. So, talking about, sharing data, I want to ask you something. Is it safe to share data, or what kind of data is safe to share with large language models such as ChatGPT, Bard, all the large language models we have out there?
Yes, and this is another, I think, interesting topic, because it's used in a lot of business, and not even on the a business decision maker level. Sometimes it's not that the business decision maker level makes a decision, oh, I want to invest in LLM to my employees to make them more productive. Sometimes, you read the news, you know that there's such tool as a ChatGPT or Gemini online, and you know that you can go there and for free, you can get some really good answers. For example, writing an email for you. You have to write probably a lot of emails at your work. A lot of people have to do that. You don't want to do it because it's time consuming. You want something to automate it. So, and it's not bad that we want to put our productivity to use and put AI to use. But the thing is, when the tool is online and for free, never ever put there your personal data or important data from your employer. So know if you're having a critical meeting with a business stakeholder that you're starting a new project with, don't put into the open LLM the fact that, well, my company XYZ is meeting good company ABC and we have a very critical project which is super secret.
Yeah, or do it through a more subtle way of, correct this 30-page essay and all of this data about the company.
Yes, because remember that the free solutions that we use like this on the web have servers somewhere that use the data that you put there for training, or might use it for training. So your data that you put there about how much you earn, what is your name, where do you live, code of your solution. So let's say and again, this is important for the cybersecurity element, because if I'm writing code for an application and I put it into the LLM, because the large language models are really good in writing code and helping me write code. Yeah. So if I put it there might be some, as we said, a vector of attack in this code that might later, because of the server, I don't know, gets hacked and somebody takes this data from the owner of the LLM and we put it there, so it's there and they know where it came from because of our IP, because of where we came from, and blah, blah, blah. This is a potential vector of attack, and this is giving away of the IP of the company. So I'm not saying don't use it, just be careful when using online tools, because the data might go somewhere and the model might train on it. And sometimes if it leaks, it might be critical for the company.
Yeah, I think it goes along with the idea of, having as little least privilege kind of access to information. So if you don't have to share information, if you can afford not to share critical information with other people, don't do it. So if you can avoid selling it to the LLM, which company, so let's say OpenAI gets hacked, and which I think has happened actually, gets hacked, and then they share a lot of information publicly, your information might be on there. So don't do it. I think there's tools out there that allow you to privatize this data, right?
Yes, exactly. Those deployers, those companies that put out those LLMs for free, sometimes, and many of the times, or most of the times actually, allow you to buy it so that the data is being like it's like a public cloud. You can use a public cloud, and on this public cloud you can have your services that are secured, and you secure them. The same goes for these LLM solutions. You can buy this sort of LLM access for your employees, and this data will be secure in a given place, will not be saved, for example, which is a big thing. If the data is not being saved, it means that it cannot be, let's say, taken out from and I don't want to go into the fact that the LLMs, in their technical way, if you have a conversation and you can cancel it, like you have a conversation and you delete it, the data doesn't have to be anywhere. Like the LLM working, for them, it's not crucial that the conversation you just had is saved. It's actually okay if you have just one conversation when you have some critical data sharing, maybe not critical, but data that shouldn't be shared outside, and you delete this conversation after you have all the answers, and it doesn't have to be saved. So even the LLM can be stateless, so that the data it has can be deleted later. The data you put in there can be deleted later, the conversation, and it doesn't have to be saved. So there are safe ways on a cyber level that you can use buying. Of course, you have to pay for it. It's not for free then.
Of course.
But then it allows you to keep the productivity and use these tools for productivity of your employees. But then on the other hand, be safe that the data, for example, is either saved in a safe space or can be deleted later.
Yeah, I think the control of it all is what's key there. So maybe shifting topics, I wrote some cool questions I'd like to ask you. So the first one, will AI take over for security analysts?
Oh, it's a hard question when it comes to jobs. So like, what will happen? Like, is Terminator going to take over the world and take over all of our jobs?
Right.
I think no. And I think no because of the fact that we talked about the data poisoning, right? We talked about the fact that we need to check statistically, analyze our data, and see how they're going if something is not changing. So who is going to analyze that? At the end of the day, the person who knows what's happening on the global scale and what's going on is human. So they have to check if the model flags that there was some statistical change in the data, and you as a human has to look at it and see, okay, for example, it makes sense because this and that. So I think in cybersecurity especially, there are cases that cannot be gone away with human intelligence. So I'm saying that for sure this work will change, but I hope it will move more into the automation part so that the cyber analyst will not have to do things that are boring and repetitive, and these things will be taken away from them, and they will have the ability to go into like a higher level of planning when it comes to cyber, and AI will take over, and automation generally will take over the tasks that are tedious to them.
Yeah, I think more and more AI is making everything more strategic. Like jobs are turning into, typing buttons to something that's much more strategic. And analysts very much follow this trend of not only looking at is this a right attack or not, but thinking how do we, on a more macro level, going more back, secure our most important assets? What risk can we take? What risk can we not take? And so we're I don't want to say losing much of this small tech because we still need to have it, right? We still need to have people check over these things. So how do you make the balance? What do you think analysts' job? Because you need to do more of the basic stuff. You need to do more of the strategic stuff, but you still need to be able to understand the basic stuff as well, right? So we're going to need to be much more empowered, right, as human security analysts.
Yeah, and I think there's this discussion I had with my friend who was a fan of tennis, and we talked about judges in tennis and the fact that before you're like this big super judge, you have to be the small judge that just takes if the ball went out the court. Yeah. And this is being automated right now. So the question which is being posed, and the same goes, I think, to the security analysts and the programmers, if AI can do the junior job, how can we get seniors? If the junior job might be sort of taken by AI. And in my perspective, it's more like we need to be sure that, first of all, if the junior job sometimes is just learning what's where. So like understanding the concept and understanding for example, in which system I can check this specific threat and in which system I can check this. Because then it turns into, in this scenario right now, that you have to just check and say probable risk, less probable. And in the future, AI will do the less probable risk, but you will still have to understand the system and know what the AI is saying. So I think it's important that we still learn the skills which lie at the bottom, but then I wouldn't prioritize them as the most important, because sometimes, right now, if your job is to just check some tables, your employer doesn't care or doesn't put into effort to have you the bird eye view of the company or high level view. So what I think is just what you said, is like we need to empower people to know the system and the stuff, and to learn to live with AI. And also, one more thing comes into this. If AI is doing those things, like easier tasks, it can also, putting LLMs into it and newest technologies, have like a short course. The AI can actually show the analyst what it's doing and can explain what is going on.
Yeah.
So like you can learn from AI to see what's going on, and then you can move to more strategic perspective.
Yeah, because I think we've been presenting as AI, AI does the job and then it's up to the analyst. But oftentimes I think we have to bridge them both by doing exactly what you said, which is you have the analyst, they have to consider what's happening right now within the company and what this situation is. But the AI can't do it by themselves. The analyst has to analyze it, but it can also ask questions to AI. Give me more data about this. And the analyst is really good at, I think, let me know what you think about this, is really good at knowing what information it needs. AI is really good at providing that information and processing it. So more often than not, when I use ChatGPT, what I end up doing is asking it question, like guiding it towards what I need it to do. Like you don't just have one prompt and it's good, just guiding it little by little. So I think the analyst role will perhaps turn more and more into this, asking questions about different events and AI having access to this whole hierarchy of data and being able to pull out the right data to answer the problem.
Yeah, and like having one interface through which you can do it and have access to different systems if it's being connected correctly to the interface of talking, because that's another thing. Before, when you wanted this data, you would either have a dashboard or you would need to write code. But now you can actually use your native language and a lot of, or not native, but second language, which is in many cases English, to talk to AI to help you with that. And if it's connected the right way, it can help you get access to information. Of course, there are many other things that we can consider, for example, hallucinations, and the fact that AI can make, the LLMs can make up knowledge instead of taking it from somewhere. So this is a risk of like, we need to be able to see the where the knowledge comes from. This is always say when it comes to the LLMs, always check the source of the information. Never let the LLM be like the last resort of the knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. Always check where the information comes from. And I think it's funny because it's sort of like what used to go on many years ago with Wikipedia, right? We used to say, oh, never use Wikipedia as a source. Always check the sources. And right now, Wikipedia has moved on to being a very good, very reliable source of information in many cases, and it being so much better than it used to be. And I think, LLM is sort of the next stage of it. But I always say, if you can, check the sources, because it will allow you to understand the problem, not only the answer to the problem.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. Good. I mean, perhaps another question I'd like to ask about the attacker piece. So we talked about how AI can help us defend, but can you tell me more about how attackers are using AI right now to attack us?
Yeah, so first of all is like, of course, one big thing is basically seeing patterns. So one big thing AI can do is see patterns, as we have said, and we can use it both to defend us, but it can also be used by attackers, right? To see patterns of how things are done and try to duplicate these patterns to get some information, for example, right? But when it comes to LLMs and the large language models, we talked about phishing and how humans are basically sometimes the weakest link in our cybersecurity stack. So the phishing emails, which were written automatically many times before, can be written automatically now with so much more ease, because the LLMs are so much more believable and they can actually write as a certain person. So your boss might have a very specific type of, how they write, right? Yeah. And if you got an email which looks exactly like your boss and is very mad and tells you to do something right now, well, you probably won't double check to see if the email is correct, from which the email came from. Maybe you will just be, hectic and you'll be, okay, I will do it, boss. Thank you. And this is just one stage of and another thing is it can be produced very easily. LLMs just produce text like a machine. So it's super easy to create a lot of these phishing emails. So it's easier to kind of, flood us with disinformation sometimes and and basically the phishing emails or phishing information. So that's one thing. But another thing is it's not only text.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not only text, right? There's other things.
Yes, the text is just, let's say, the first layer, which is easy to produce because video or pictures are a bit harder to produce.
Are they though? I mean, looking at ChatGPT's what OpenAI has been able to do, wild, right?
Yes, but still, it's not. In my point of view, the videos are not as believable as text. Still, the text is easier. It's easier to write a believable text of your boss. Like for me, for example, to prompt the LLM to say exactly how my mom would tell me things, and it's harder to prompt the LLM so that it can make a video because it needs more computing power, and then videos are more detailed than text. So I'm not saying that it's impossible. It's just a bit harder, but it's still happening. The deep fakes and the fact that right now it's very easy. Text is one thing, picture is the other, and video, but voice. You can actually upload samples of your voice, and you'll be able to create a bot, which you write it what to say, and it says the same thing in your voice. So if someone creates the voice deep fake, voice fake, or deep voice fake of my boss, and they call me and they say, you have to do this and that. And it's not actually fictitious, because there was one case of a woman who was called by her daughter, and it was said they were kidnappers, and they say they kidnapped her daughter and she had to pay a ransom, and she paid it, and it turned out that actually her daughter was at school and everything was fine. Basically, it was just a deep fake of the voice of the daughter. But it's not only the private life, it's the business life as well. It was a very loud case of someone from the financial part of the company being called by it was I don't remember exactly, but I think it was a CFO and a couple of other important people from the company, and they had this call when the CFO told the person oh, you need to do this transaction very quick, it's very important. It was a video call, and they hang up. The person made the transaction, and it turned out it was just deepfakes. All of these people were just deepfakes from the people from the company. And
how do you think they got all the data to? Exactly.
The thing is, and I think about this if you're a business decision maker, if you're a CEO, if you're someone who is, out there, who has videos, voice recordings of them, this is the thing that makes it, collecting data about people who are in the public eye is not hard, because you are recorded in conferences, you make some speeches. So the samples of your voice and the samples of how you look and how you make gestures and stuff like this is easy to get when you're in a public eye. So I'm not saying that we should hide, and never show our faces. But the point is to remember that the more you are in a public light, the easier it is. And for people as I say, CEOs, CXOs, they usually are in a public light. It's easier to get the data and create a deep fake, which is still, it doesn't happen every second day, right? It's not that we hear about those deep fakes calls every second day. It was a first very big thing, the ones that I just told you about. But it's still coming. The more processing power we have, the more AI gets more advanced, the more of these cases we'll have. And we need to be ready, not only with AI to be able to tell us where cybersecurity threats are, but we need to be ready with our brains and our knowledge that it's coming, so that we can prepare to think twice.
Yeah, and this is where the empowering employees becomes so relevant in this context, right? Because with AI, we're saying that employees move to a strategic position, so they ultimately have power over the big decisions because the small decisions are made by AI. And we're in a context where AI can also make it more challenging to defend against these, because you don't know what's real and what's not real.
Yes. So we come back to this, again, strategic decision of you put your money. And of course, you put your money on cyber security with AI. You put your money on basically securing your AI solutions. But also the third pillar is you put your money on skilling and telling people what is what, what you need to be wary of. Because at the end of the day, as we say so many times, humans are one of the links that are also breakable in the cybersecurity chain.
Yeah, for sure. Pamela, we're about the end of the podcast. Can you tell us, if people want to hear more about you, where can they find out more about you?
Well, basically, I post some stuff on LinkedIn. So if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, there's a lot of stuff going on about AI and how it is being regulated right now in Europe, for example, what is happening. So happy to share. And I hope that right now you'll be thinking twice when your boss or mom calls you.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.